I think the biggest thing and takeaway is that you got to adjust. You got to adjust, you got to be flexible, you got to go with the times. And I think that that's for me what has made education for me so still enjoyable after 26 years is that I still try to stay flexible with it. I try to
Yeah.
learn what the kids are into. I try to go with the times. I try to remember to, remind myself, hey, this is what they're going through. This is what we've been doing. It's ever changing. It's evolving because you're dealing with people.
Yes.
Again, it's not a product that we're producing. It's people. And so when you're dealing with people, it's a forever changing and evolving thing.
That's tremendous. No, it's that all of that that's changing. That's the stuff. That's the professional development, the continued development. You got to be a student of your business, no matter where you are. But as a
Hmm.
teacher, you've got to constantly, hey, what's new? Let me try this. Let me try that. I feel like when you're completely comfortable as a teacher, that's when you really got to check
Yeah,
yourself. Like wait a second.
yeah.
You know,
Because you
so,
know what, like even myself, when I think of how I was like even 15 years ago,
yeah.
I'm like, you were a jerk. Like, what was that? Why did you do that? And I mean, at that time, again, it might have worked with the kids that I had or
Yeah.
like how old I was, but I was like, oh my God. You have to evolve yourself and
Yes.
you have to reflect, you have to look back and change. But I think that you're right. If you get too comfortable, you become complicit. And then that's not good for you as a
Mhm.
person or for your students, but you are forever growing and changing and learning as a
Yeah,
teacher.
you also got to give yourself credit too. And if you try something new and it doesn't work out, or you just uh, a great anecdote is shout out to Karen Shiley, one of my favorite mentors. She kept me in teaching. She was my reading specialist when I started teaching, and coached me on a lot of things. But she told me a story about how she and her colleague were talking, and that her colleague had been teaching for 40 years, and she said, "Well, I wish I could go back in time, go and call all my students that I had in the first 3 years of teaching and apologize to them for that first 3 years, because a first year teacher, you're going to be like, I remember my
Yeah.
first couple of years. It takes you time to develop who you are, to sharpen your skills.
Hmm.
But you're going to constantly be in that, okay, this new thing here, I'm going to do this. You're taking and moving things around. But I think what's also interesting that you had mentioned is that it seems like the one constant in all of that is that heart, that trust,
Hmm.
building those relationships, no matter how you do, no matter what's going on. That seems to be the most consistent thing that doesn't change. And
Yeah.
that's interesting, that's the one thing you can't really be taught in a professional development. That either comes with experience, or you have it, like you said, you've got it from the
Hmm.
get-go.
Yeah. And that's just something that needs to also, I think, maybe be taught or at least brought up in education classes because again, you can learn knowledge, I guess your basic knowledge of
Yeah.
your field, but it's a field where you have to actually experience
Yeah.
in order to learn and to grow. And when I switched schools, when I came up to the high school from middle school, it was my fourth year of teaching by then, and I remember it was a rough year. And one of the older teachers had said to me, "Well, you're like a new teacher again." And I'm like, so here I was like, I'm all cocky, and I'm like, "No, it's my fourth year, so I'm not a new teacher anymore."
Yeah.
I thought I was, tough shit, and I said, he said, but every time you change jobs or go to a new school, you are new because it's a new environment, new this,
Yeah.
whatever. And he said, your first year, no matter if you're a first year teacher out of college or going into a new school, your first year is survival.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And your
Hmm.
second year is like you're waking up like, okay, I made it. I remember, and now I'm going to make a couple of changes, but not too many because I'm still not comfortable. And then by your third year, that's when you realize what's you and what's not. And then
Yeah.
that's where your style starts to come in, is about
Yes.
your third year. And so really your first 3 years are kind of like and it's finally your fourth and fifth year where you are really bringing in and changing, like you said, and moving things around. It's kind of like, and because I love analogies, but it's kind of like you get your first apartment ever living somewhere. And of course, you've got your apartment and you think, again, your big stuff because you've got your own apartment and you no longer live with mom and dad.
Yep.
But you've got a crate and a futon, and you're like,
Yes.
yeah, I got places people can sit, and then like 8
Yeah.
people come over and you're like, oh, well, I don't have enough dishes. Okay, well, and eventually
Dishes?
you right, paper plates. You
Yeah.
you accumulate things, and then eventually you get all this furniture, and then one day you're like, I love my furniture, but I don't like where it's at. So then you rearrange it.
Yep.
And then after a while, I mean, you get a new couch, you get a new this, you get a new that, you put things together. I don't want this here. I'm going to put it in the bedroom.
Mhm.
It's kind of like that. That's what teaching is like. You grow, you develop, you get more stuff. You look at somebody and go, oh, I like that. And then you're like, I'm
Yes.
going to incorporate that into my stuff,
Mhm.
So when you go over to Jen always says that I'm nosy, that I like to look in other people's houses. And I'm like, this is because I'm getting ideas. And so
Yes.
that's the same thing with like teaching. You got to talk to other people and see them, because you can pull ideas from them too, and collaborate and come up with your own stuff. But eventually you'll have this awesome house of cool stuff, and it's going to be your style. So
Yeah.
just like your students are growing and developing a style all their own, you as a teacher are doing the same thing.
It's full episodes of the Educators podcast every Thursday at 4 p.m. Real educators with the real issues in education. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, take care of yourself. Jeans passes for anyone who likes, shares, and comments on this video. Have a great week.